bug.
Gotcha. Well, I heard yesterday that apparently the infection to mortality rate is something like, for my group, it's like 0.0002% chance that if I am infected, that I will die.
But yeah, it's not affecting younger kids unless they.
Actually, I saw that the older 70 plus,
Yeah.
it's like for an average, it's 0.054 infection mortality. So it's actually like incredibly low even for older people.
Or
It's literally
going
just,
down.
yeah, well, it was never bad to begin with. It was the fact that they had a lot of infections in nursing homes, and they initially didn't know how to respond to
Well, it
it.
was immunocompromised.
Then
They're doing permanent damage, like it's not something that you're getting. So, well, thank you.
yeah.
Everything. You want me to need water? I'll just fill it up. I got some. I got some. Coffee on my shirt on the way here. I have the worst drinking problem ever. Like,
You have a drinking problem?
No, there's not a day that goes by that there's not something.
Yeah. That's why I try to wear darker colors. Just all one. I actually spilled coffee on my pants on the way to church one day, and I was like, great. It was just little drops, but I was wearing it. It's good. Works out good. There you go. What are you doing? Does that look the way you want it to or something?
No, it's good.
Okay.
I want to be on the board. Mr. Green, is that you?
You are still muted.
I never unmute myself.
Oh, yes, that's me. I'm sorry.
Okay, just checking. Thank you, sir. I recognize this number. It's 864.
Green lit one. Those are speakers. I think those are mics. These guys.
Which one's the green?
Yeah, I think those
Okay.
are mics.
Should I get another one or anything?
Making out afterwards, so, or after everything kind of started.
You need a clipboard or something? Well,
I have some out.
if there.
It's a roll call list off of the printer. Hey.
Yes, sir. The camera working? Is that really fast? Just turn on your camera on. Meeting.
Hi, Colonel Leeds.
Hello, Paige. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, sir?
Doing fine. Doing fine.
At the moment, we have Mr. Green on the line.
Mr. Green, how you doing? How you doing, Mike?
Hey, good. How are you, Colonel?
Doing fine. Doing fine. Ready to rock and
Okay.
roll. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Wait. Hey, Mr. Anderson.
Hey, this is the only thing on the printer.
Yeah, I think that's probably something Kim is printing. All right, I tried again. All right.
It's muted right now.
I was grinding it just in case. Thank you. Hey, guys, how are ya?
Fantastic. How about y'all?
Good.
Hey, Franny.
Michael, can you press record over there? Please.
Hello, Miss Sturgis.
Okay.
Yes, hello, Miss Robinson.
How are you all?
Doing fine.
Good.
Doing great.
No, that's okay. That door gets jammed sometimes.
Hello, Dr. Morris.
Hello, how's everyone?
You doing fine, Dr. Morris?
Good, good.
Can you hear?
Yes, I can. Hey, BJ, how are you?
Hey,
Hey, BJ.
hey, how are y'all?
We're doing fine.
Anything else, Paige?
You can press record up here. Okay, all right, thanks.
Cool.
You're good, baby, great. Right. You can be around.
I apologize.
Okay, all right.
But, sure, appreciate it.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Hey Skip, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How you doing, man?
Still breathing.
Well, that's good. How the missus? She coming along all right?
Yeah, she's almost 100% again.
Okay, good. That's great.
This COVID is no joke.
Okay.
We put it on John.
Do we have a quorum yet?
Yes, sir.
Hey, Leon.
Hey,
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Good morning. Who's that?
Tracy.
How you doing? All right.
You do have a quorum, Chair, if you'd like to get started.
Okay. Thank you much. At this time, I'm going to call the meeting to order. It has been determined that we have a quorum. So the first action item will be the adoption of the agenda. Can I get a motion?
Would you like
So
me to do a
moved.
roll call, sir?
That's all right, Dr. Roll Call again.
Okay.
We'll just go ahead and can we adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Is now exiting. Who moved that?
Can I get a second?
This is Ron.
Hello, Ron. Ron, we're on item number 2. We're trying to adopt the agenda.
Yeah,
Somebody made a motion.
I seconded
Oh,
the
you
agenda.
did? Okay, thank you. Okay, it's been properly moved in second. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
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 Aye. Okay. All right. Okay. Any negatives? Let it be known by saying nay. Okay, so the adoption of the medical agenda passed. Item number 3, consent calendar. We have one item on this consent calendar, and can I get a motion to adopt the consent calendar as written?
So moved. This is Anderson. So moved.
Mr. Anderson?
Second.
Second,
Okay,
Robert
properly
Morris.
Okay, who seconded that? Was that Andy Smith or Dr. Morris?
Mr. Smith.
Either one.
Okay, Smith, okay. All right, it's properly moved in second that we adopt the consent item. Item number 4, Finance Committee update and action item. And that can be found on pages 35, looks like 35 through 27 through 107. And I'm going to ask Andy Smith and Rosalind to take the lead on that. All yours, Andy.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. So Finance Committee met a couple weeks ago now. We had, a regular kind of standing agenda item to talk about financial highlights and DVE report, but there was no DVE report because we're kind of in the transition between 2 primary contractors, and it was also just 1 month into the fiscal year. So we did have some financial highlights, but we acknowledge that it's very early in the fiscal year, and there's a lot of, accruing going on and still some things getting settled for the prior fiscal year. We moved on to our action items on the agenda. The first was an update to Policies and Procedures Manual to bring our procurement in line with South Carolina, primarily with South Carolina procurement law, but also with FTA regulations in mind. Mr. Ando went through all the recommended changes one by one. We had an opportunity to ask questions. We noted that legal has been involved in the process, and the Finance Committee recommended to the board adoption of the updated procurement guidelines. So, Mr. Chair, I don't know if you want me to go through at this point, and you mean just keep going through all our recommendations, or should we do one motion at a time?
I think we should do probably one at a time.
Okay.
Probably be less confusing if we do it that way. Let's look at it again here. I tell you what. Yeah, let's do one at a time. So let's get a motion on that first one. Can I get a motion on the first item, first recommendation?
I'll make that motion that we adopt the procurement changes as discussed in the Finance Committee.
All right. Can we get a second?
Second, this is Anderson.
Okay, properly moved in second. Are there any questions?
I have a question, Mr. Chair. Chair, I would like to amend the recommended motion. On page 124, recommended motion I would like to delete the last 11 words. So my amendment would be the same as the motion, recommended motion on page 124, excluding the last 11 words.
Okay.
Point of order, Mr. Chair, this is Mr. Anderson.
Okay.
Can Dr. Morris, can you read me the 11 words you want to delete, please?
Yes. 11 words, and that no future exception will be granted in this regard. I can read the whole motion if you'd like me to.
Dr. Morris, this is Andy. That's a different motion.
Mr. Smith, that is the part of the financial report.
We haven't gotten to that one yet.
Dr. Morris.
Okay, well,
Yeah,
all right.
I see where you're.
Well, fine, I'm sorry, then, when we get to it, I would like to amend it.
Okay. All right, so we'll have a motion. Go ahead and did it get a motion? We got a motion and a second for item number 4A, which is update of procurement and contract administration policy. And that was found, Dr. Morris, and everybody else, from page 35 to 107. So now this motion is on the table for ready for vote. Are there any questions about that particular motion? If not, we'll go ahead and vote on it. All in favor of passage of this motion, let it be known by saying aye.
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 All right. Okay. All right. Any negative nays, let it be known by saying nay. So the motion passes. Okay. Next item, Andy.
Okay, so next we talked about a proposal. It actually dates back to 2016 from a vendor called TrueStar Energy. In essence, what this would do is allow us to use compressed natural gas for a subset of our fleet. And the idea is that we're about to buy new buses for the USC contract. And this might be a good opportunity for us to engage this vendor for the use of compressed natural gas. And the way it would work is the vendor would build a CNG station for free as long as we committed to a 10-year commitment. This is, the committee discussed this pretty thoroughly. It is part of the Vision 2020 plan for the Comet. There's not according to Mr. Ando, there's not a significant increase in the expense associated with the capital, so that the buses themselves. It used to be the case that CNG buses were a lot more expensive, but that's not really the case anymore. But the problem, a downside, is that CNG, in the industry is not exactly considered the cutting edge anymore. At one time it was, but it's still, the fuel's less expensive. I think it's environmentally much more friendly. So the committee, after vetting it for a while, didn't really have a strong recommendation, but we did vote to send it forward to the board for discussion, and then we also recommended that if the board wished to move forward with it, we authorize staff to enter into an agreement. I know that so that doesn't necessarily give strong guidance, but my preference would be for a brief kind of presentation by Mr. Ando to give the details, and then a motion by the board, or a motion first and then discussion, whichever is more appropriate. But
well, I tell you what, let's go ahead and do the motion first, and then we'll do the discussion after that. Go ahead, Mr. Smith, with the motion, whomever. Okay, so I'll make that motion that we
that we move forward with a plan for CNG for the USC fleet that we intend to buy, and that we authorize staff to enter into an agreement with TrueStar Energy.
I'll second, Ms. Anderson.
All right. And properly moved in second. Are there any questions? Or do we have any discussions?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair.
Okay. Okay. All right. Let me. Okay. Who's that? That was Mr. Burgess.
Yes. My problem is if the motion and second come from committee members, those that aren't aware of what transpired will feel more comfortable voting on these items in finance. So maybe Andy may want to address that in his meeting.
Well, I tell you what we'll do is where we stand right now. We've made a motion and we seconded, right?
Yeah,
So we're open for discussion.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman. Very well.
And I do too, please, Mr. Chair.
Wait. Let's do this in order now. Let me get your names. Who that? You got Ms. Mood?
Yes.
Mr. Was that Mayor Walker?
Yes.
Okay, and you had Mr. Burgess Mr. Burgess was talking. Okay, everybody gonna get a chance, and I got those three, right? Okay, so let's dispense of Mr. Burgess's situation. Mr. Burgess, what you want to do, Mr. Burgess? Say again.
No, I was just saying it makes the rest of the board members feel more comfortable voting for amendments when the motion and the second is made from committee members, because we don't get in detail on these finance reports.
So, Mr. Burgess, I made the motion, and I'm Finance Committee Chair. I can't control who seconds it.
I didn't say you could, but I'm just saying with other members of the Finance Committee in the meeting, that lets me know that it's been well discussed if the motion and the second is in committee.
Okay. Well, we'll.
Mr. Chair?
Hold a minute now. Okay, so Mr. Burgess, what we'll do, we'll take that and we'll work. That might be good for us to do, but what we need to do right now is go ahead and finish discussing this particular item, and then we'll see what we can do on that. Maybe in the future, maybe the motion should come from, unless we have somebody who on the committee who wants to second this thing now.
Mr. Chair, I'll second the motion.
Oh, with Mrs. Anderson, I will withdraw my second if that makes everything go fast.
Okay, all right, Ed. Okay, well, that's good. Okay, so Dr. Morris seconded, and he's on the committee. Good. Now let's discuss the. Are there any questions or discussion on this on the motion that's on the floor? I think we have some names here. The first one was Mayor Walker.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. My question is to the committee. I know you all are. The CNG is for the purchases of the buses for USC. How many buses in our fleet right now use CNG?
The answer to that is zero. We don't have any current CNG. As these questions get more technical, I'll defer to Mr. Ando, but.
No. I just want to know how many buses had it. The CNG. If the answer is zero, then
zero, right?
Are we purchasing for USC?
My notes say 12.
Okay. Now, out of those 12 buses we're purchasing for USC, is there any plans to go to the total fleet of CNG or just all buses?
I didn't quite understand the question. It was breaking up a little bit.
Yeah, Mayor, you're
apologize.
breaking.
I apologize.
Okay.
Is that better?
Yeah.
That's better.
Okay, great. My question was, out of the 12 buses that we are presently allocating for CNG, how many buses in the future are we looking at using CNG, or just for USC?
Again, I'll defer to John on those questions, but, you know, it certainly seems like to me if we have success with these 12 and with this particular vendor, I would think we'd want to, you know, or we could consider doing more.
It is cheaper than diesel or gas, right?
Currently, yeah.
Okay. I just, you know, if we're not as if the common is not interested in converting the entire fleet CNG, it seems to me a big expense to have for the 12 buses we're getting for USC. I mean, that's in the contract with USC. They have to be CNG buses. Is that right?
I don't think so, Mr. Ando.
Yes, Mr. Smith. So the plan is, as we discussed in the Finance Committee, is that we would only purchase 12 buses that are CNG, since the buses would live the lifespan of the station. And then by the next time we have to make a major fleet replacement, I would presume through the board's discussion of a future Vision 2030 and a strategic plan, and with the evolution of electric and hydrogen, that the board would give direction on exploration of those other fuels at that time period. But for the purposes of this action, it would only be for 12 buses, and the station and the buses would basically live together in harmony, since the buses have a lifespan of 14 years, and the minimum lifespan of the station would be 10 years.
Okay, that's fine. That's what I was getting to, John, is that to me, the future of transportation is going to be more electric based than it is CNG or diesel or, you know, any of those fossil fuels. And if we're going to build a CNG station specifically for 12 buses, and we don't have any plans to expand our fleet to more CNG buses, it seems to be a big expense. But then that's just my 2 cents. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'll yield the floor.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Go ahead, Andy.
I'm sorry. I thought I was thinking chair of the committee. I'm sorry. So John, Mr. Ando, just to clarify, there's no real upfront expense for the Comet. TrueStar would build the station for free with that 10-year commitment. There might be a modest difference in the price of the buses, right?
That is correct.
So there would be some expense differential, but we would not be incurring the upfront capital expense for the station itself.
That is correct. Since the buses are 14 years and the station is 10, as long as we use it for that 10, there'll be no cost for the construction of that station, because they would have recouped their capital through us purchasing fuel from them over the lifespan of that 10 years.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Okay, is that it, Andy?
I think, we've got a motion and a second. We're still in discussion. If anybody else has any other questions about that.
Yeah, we got.
I did want to make, I think I was on the list to make a comment.
Yeah, Ms. Booth, go ahead.
Okay. Well, really, Mayor Walker raised the issue that was really on my mind, and that is that if we're making a 10-year commitment into the future to change the source of fuel for our buses, that I would have much more enthusiasm for our moving toward an electric fleet rather than a kind of interim compressed natural gas fleet. I don't see a huge benefit in terms of cost savings. I think I understand that the life of the buses would not be forever, and that we could make a decision down the line, that you all can make a decision down the line, but my interest is in that we would be building toward a sustainable energy fleet. And I think compressed natural gas is still a fossil fuel. It's still produced by processes like fracking that are very damaging to the potable water supply in our country. We don't have fracking in our state, but the places we'd be getting the compressed natural gas from are experiencing severe environmental impacts from that process. And so my preference would be that we put our long-term, make our long-term goal be an electric fleet, one that's run on sustainable energy rather than this little interim 10 years on compressed natural gas.
Okay, is that it, Ms. Booth?
That's it.
Okay. Dr. Morris?
Yes. Oh, no, I'm finished clarifying. I had wanted to second it.
Oh, okay. Is there anyone else who wants to speak on this particular motion? If not, we'll go ahead and do a roll call we'll do a roll call on this one to vote on it. See how that works today. Okay. Mr. Anderson, yay or nay?
Yay.
Okay. Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Fergus?
No.
Dr. Morris?
Yes.
Mr. Ratio? I think I got it right. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Gleason? Ms. Gleason? Representative Howard? Representative Howard Beeks? Yes. Ms. Dickerson? Ms. Mood?
No.
Mr. Huggins? Okay. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the motion fails. We have five votes. Did I get everybody? I got everybody, right? Got everybody? My list is, I don't think I missed anybody. So we got 5 yays and we need 6. Or, Madam, Ms. let me ask our parliamentarian something. Now, since we don't have all 11 members here, would the majority of those members here constitute enough to pass it, or do we have to have those who are missing also who are not here?
No, sir. If you have a quorum, a majority of those voting passes the matter, or
okay.
Conversely would defeat the matter. It's just a simple majority of those present and voting.
Well, in that case, the motion passes. Do you have that? You have that, Madam Clerk? You have that?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, Ms. Ferguson.
I just have a question. Since this seemed like something that should have gone to service first, has this item ever been presented to the service committee?
Okay, I don't know. I don't know whether it's presented or not. Can you speak to that, John or Andy? Or is that?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. No, this item went to the Finance Committee because it's a financial expenditure, ultimately. and in the bylaws, the Finance Committee reviews capital expenditures like this.
I think we'll challenge that, because if you're going into buying buses or using a thing, we've discussed this natural gas in the past, and it was at the service committee. And anything going with service goes to service before it goes to finance. So we need to correct that.
Well, we'll work on that, Mr. Frederick, but it's been established, the motion is passed. We need to move on to 4C, please.
Okay, so the next item we discussed was budget revisions for fiscal 21 budget, and most of these are things that we've the board is already is aware of or has already discussed. So, the first major budget amendment was the both the revenue and an expense associated with the USC service, which is $1.5 million. There were some adjustments to local funding based on new information that was provided to the finance office from both the state and local constituents. And then there was the inclusion of CARES Act funding, the fiscal year 21 portion of the CARES Act funding that we received. Finance Committee recommended adoption of these budget amendments to the full board.
Okay. Can I get a motion on that? Can I get a motion from y'all? Okay, go ahead, Andy.
Make the motion that the board adopts the budget amendments as presented.
I second it.
Can I get it? Properly moved in second. Okay. Any discussion at this point on these budget items? No discussion. Then I'll do a vote by roll call. Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Burgess.
No.
Dr. Morris.
Yes.
Mr. Ratio.
Yes.
Mrs. Gleason. Representative Howard.
Yes.
Leak. Okay. Thank you, Representative Howard. Got it. Leaks, yes. Ms. Dickerson. Ms. Mood.
Yes.
Mr. Huggins. Okay. The motion passes, and so we'll go ahead and Madam Secretary, or not Secretary, but Clerk, you have that. Motion passes. Move on to the next item, Andy.
All right, so there are two matters under this section 4D that both relate to RapDev and the transition from prior contractor to current contractor. The first is a change order. So in the contract, initially, startup costs, the contract only authorized staff to pay startup costs for activities up to June 30th, 2020, and nothing beyond that. Well, a lot of the costs associated with startup have kind of bled on into the next fiscal year, so into fiscal year 21. And so basically, change order 4 will allow staff to authorize within contract spending limits payment of these startup costs for the period up to January 25th, 2021. At that point, I take it John, staff, and RapDev both believe that startup costs will be exhausted at that point?
Yes, Mr. Smith.
Okay, so that's the first part. The second part relates to, let's see, hold on. Did I skip? I'm sorry, I skipped item. No, I didn't. Okay.
You're straight.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at two different sets of notes here. And anyway, so the second item has to do with invoicing. we've had some discussion about the fact that invoicing currently doesn't comply with the contract and our needs for reporting, both internally to the board, the kinds of things that the invoices need to show, especially to the service committee, but also, of course, to the finance committee as we look at financial matters. But the kind of information that we need internally, but also externally for reporting to our oversight bodies like the FTA, that information is currently, we're still having trouble coming to the same place with RapDev on getting that information into the invoices. So we talked about that for a while. Essentially what the recommendation of the committee is to extend the deadline for reporting to September 30th, tomorrow, for the prior months. And then also to change the monthly deadline going forward from the 15th day following the end of the month to 15 business days. So basically giving RapDev a little longer to compile this information going forward. And so that was the committee's recommendation. Dr. Morris, I think, has this is where you were wanting to change some of the language.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
excuse me, this is Franny. Y'all, I think
Yes,
you should
ma'am.
have two separate motions. I think
Okay.
y'all should consider a motion on the startup costs and then a motion on paying the invoices.
I concur.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to adopt change order number 4.
Can I get a second?
And that's the startup cost.
That's the startup
Yes,
cost.
I'll second it.
Properly moved to second that we, any questions or comments on that portion of on that motion, on the startup cost? If not, we'll go ahead and vote on that. I'll do a roll call. Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Fridges,
Yes.
Dr. Morris,
Yes.
Mr. Ratio,
Yes.
Ms. Gleason, Representative Howard,
Yes.
Leaks, yes. Ms. Dickerson, Ms. Mood,
Yes.
and Mr. Huggins, not here. All right, the motion passes. So we'll go to the second part of that, to the next motion, the next part of that scenario. And can I get a motion on that? Are you ready for a motion on that portion of it yet, Andy?
I think so. I've introduced the topic, and if someone's willing to make a motion.
Okay. Can I get a motion on that? Can I get a motion on the read it again, and since we had that little break in there, tell us what this motion could be about.
Okay, so here's what the motion as originally drafted would say. That the board approve payment of RapDev's invoices for July and August 2020 and authorize its payment as long as the July and August 2020 monthly reports are provided to the comment no later than September 30th, 2020, and that no future exceptions will be granted in this regard. That's the way it was discussed originally, and again, there was some, as Dr. Morris noted, some disagreement on that last phrase.
Okay. All right. So, you're making that motion? Can we get a?
What's
Can we
the
get a
amendment of
second?
motion?
We need to second this one first, I believe. Am I right, Ms. Parliamentarian?
Mr. Chair, because there is no motion now on the floor, Dr.
Uh-huh.
Morris or anybody could actually make the motion and state it the way they would like to state it.
Okay.
So two
All right,
options.
Dr. Morris.
Somebody reads the language as it's written, or somebody makes a proposal that has different language.
All right. Dr. Morris, you want to do that?
Mr. Chair, I would like for the motion to be made as is, and I will amend it.
Okay, so I'll make that motion. The motion is to approve payment of RapDev's invoices for July and August 2020 and authorize its payment as long as July and August 2020 monthly reports are provided to the comment no later than September 30th, 2020, and that no future exceptions will be granted in this regard.
Okay, we got a motion. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Okay, properly moved in second.
Mr. Chair, I would like to amend the motion.
Okay, Dr. Morris.
I would like for the last 11 words to be deleted, that no future exception be granted in this regard.
All right. Can I get a second on that? Okay.
A second.
Okay. Properly moved in second on the amendment that we delete the portion and that no future exception will be granted in this regard. All right. Okay. Since the amendment came last, I think we need to. We need questions. This is debatable, so let's debate that.
Morris?
Go ahead. Who has the floor?
Mr. Chair, I just think that that last phrase there, or the last 11 words, and that no exception will be granted in this regard, is a harsh tone. If we look on page 123, if we look on page 146, we will see a letter from Attorney Baker saying the same thing in a less harsher tone. And I think that when we are working with individuals, we need to establish a good working relationship. And we don't need a statement like this last 11 words when Attorney Baker has written it differently in a much more pleasant tone on page 146. So I would recommend that the board take a look at Attorney Baker's letter before we vote on this motion.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? Anyone else want to speak on the amendment?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
If I'm understanding what Dr. Morris is advocating, would you accept would you amend your amendment to replace that wording with the wording that says that all future payments will only be made if the requirements for invoicing and reporting have been adhered to as set forth in Section 5, subparagraphs B and E?
That's fine. That's a much better tone than the way it's written here.
So would the person who seconded your motion accept that rewording?
Yes.
Okay. So now we've reworded the amendment to read it. Mrs. Mood pointed out. Did the clerk? Did you get that, Madam Clerk? Because I didn't write it all down.
Yes, sir.
You got that? Okay. All right. So now what we need to do then is go ahead. Any further discussion on the amendment on the rewritten amendments. Anybody else has a comment on that? If not, what we'll do is go ahead and vote as to whether or not we want to allow this amendment. I'm going to do a roll call again. This is for the amendment portion only now. Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Burgess.
Yes.
Dr. Morris.
Yes.
Ms. Teresa.
Yes.
Ms. Gleason. Representative Howard.
Yes.
Roger Leach. Oh, yeah, that's it. Yes. Ms. Dickerson. Ms. Boone.
Yes.
And Mr. Huggins. So the amendment passes. So we'll change that to the amendment passed, so that stands. So now what we need to do is vote on the original motion, which includes the changes for this amendment. All right.
Mr. Chair, excuse me, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
this is Franny. If I can ask a question for clarification, in the motion references September the 30th, which I think is like tomorrow, and so I would ask Mr. Ando if this material is available or likely to be available. In other words, I would prefer that y'all not set a date that is tomorrow if that date isn't meaningful or a deadline that is likely to be able to be kept.
Okay.
Yes, Madam Attorney and Mr. Chairman. My understanding that it should be here by tomorrow, so we're waiting for tomorrow.
And that date's consistent with the letter, right?
That date is consistent with the letter, yes.
Mr.
All
Chair.
right. Yes,
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Burgess. Mr. Burgess, go ahead.
I have a question for Attorney Heisinger. Who is the authority?
Say again, Mr. Burgess.
Who is the authority when it's referenced in these correspondence?
Mr. Burgess, let me look at Pam's letter.
No, I wasn't representing her letter, but who is considered the authority?
Well, that really depends upon the context. I mean, generally the authority is the entity that is represented or takes action through its board, and also takes action through delegation to the administrator. So if there's a specific piece of correspondence, I could try to look at that.
Yes, my concern is it's a lot of correspondence going from staff members to Ralph there, representing the authority, and I as a board member have never seen these letters. Now, how does that get delegated to a staff member to reference something as the authority?
Mr. Burgess, I think that would come from the contract. Yeah, the certain matters were delegated to your CEO, the executive director of the authority in the contract. And some things were specifically reserved for the board.
Well, let me ask you, can we, how can we resolve this and go ahead and finish this? I'm just wondering because the authority, what you're saying, Mr. Burgess, I want to make sure I got it clear, is that this letter that was written, was it written by the CEO?
No, it's written by a staff member, but it's referencing the authority, and I don't think if you're representing the authority, the board at least ought to know about these correspondence, and that's almost nil in the last couple of months.
Mr. Chairman?
Okay, let me make sure, Mr. Fergus. So can anybody respond to Mr. Fergus's question, comment?
Mr. Chairman?
You're next, Leo. Okay, well, I tell you what, go ahead, Leo. Let's go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I mean, my response would be that unless I can look at a specific piece of correspondence, it's hard to say, but in the contract, the day-to-day management of this contract is delegated to the executive director, CEO, and so I don't believe that the board would necessarily be copied on or advised of correspondence in the normal course of business. I mean, if there's something specific that we might be able to actually compare to the language in the contract, but for the most part, the major decisions were retained by the board, and most of the day-to-day decisions and management were delegated.
Is that what you want, Mr. Fergus? Did that take care of your concern?
Some time back we went through and pulled out the ED and changed it back to authority. Now I'm seeing staff members using the term authority in their correspondence with RAP there. And as a board member, we're not aware of that correspondence, and we sure couldn't respond to any of it without knowing about it. But we can discuss that sometime in the future.
We discussed. Okay, that's good, because I see what you're saying too, that the CEO is not the authority, and CEO and staff are not the authority, and it would be more of the board. That's what I see. Now that's fine too. Okay, so let's discuss that later. All right, Ms. Moore.
All right, I was just going to bring us back to the motion that we have in Ms. Baker's letter, and I don't think there's any reference to authority in this letter, but she was writing on behalf of the comment to let RapDev know the requirement that these invoices would be due on September 30th, and her letter is dated September 3rd. So in response to Franny's concern, I believe what we're doing in this motion is really just the board affirming what Ms. Baker has already communicated to RapDev, and those expectations they've had almost a full month to meet. So I don't think this would be a sudden come across as a sudden decision by the board, and I'd be ready to vote on the motion.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Burgess.
Now, my question had nothing to do with Attorney Baker's letter. That was just a question I had.
Okay. Right.
All right.
We got you. So we'll clarify that at a later time. We'll go ahead and get this. I see exactly what you're saying. All right. So we have if that's all, if everybody's commented who wants to comment on this, we'll go ahead and vote on it. I'm going to do a roll call again. Mr. Anderson.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
do we even need, we voted on a substitute motion, correct? And it passed.
No,
Yes.
on an amendment.
We wrote an amendment.
Well, but it really wasn't an amendment because I didn't accept an amendment. I think procedurally it was probably more like a substitute motion. I just don't know what happens if we vote this one yes, and we have two things that are.
Mr. Chair, I believe we're voting on the amended motion, the amended original motion.
Right. That's
I
what
thought
that's what I thought. When we voted
Okay.
on part of it, we voted on the finance.
I misunderstood. I thought okay.
But this is good. Yeah, you got it now. This is the part about the invoices here. Am I right? Yeah. Okay. All right. So we are ready to vote. We have a motion. And the second, and we've discussed it, so now we're ready to vote on it. Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Burgess,
Yes.
Dr. Morris,
Yes.
Mr. Ratio,
Yes.
Ms. Gleason, Representative Howard,
Yes.
Leaks, yes. Dickerson, Ms. Mood,
Yes.
and Mr. Huggins. So the motion passes. Thank you very much, Mr. Smith. This completes your portion of the agenda. Good job.
It does.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. That brings us to item number 5, Service Committee update and action items. This will be led by Ms. Lil Mood and John Endo. Can be found on page 178 to 181. Ms. Mood.
All right, Mr. Chairman, and Board, I will just remind you that this action item is the autumn 2020 service changes, and the Service Committee was working on this document that's before you for really 2 reasons. One is that the ongoing work of the Service Committee is to continuously review what routes are meeting the service standards that the board has set for different type routes. And if there are portions of the route that are not meeting the service standard, if there are modifications we might make that would make our service as efficient as possible and make the best use of our resources. So that's an ongoing work of the Service Committee. This particular set of changes that are proposed service changes that are before you are a result of the staff, Mr. Ando, and the staff that supports him in doing the analysis of our ridership and the routes and how productive each of the routes are. And this comes before you because we are the Service Committee is trying to put us in the best possible position for the next fiscal year to have the number of service hours that we can provide within the expected revenues for the upcoming year. And so that's the kind of background on this. And so at its most recent meeting, the Service Committee voted to recommend to the board to authorize these proposed service changes to go out for public hearing.
Mr. Chair.
And I would make that as a motion to the board.
Second. This is Anderson.
But
Mr. Chair.
Wait. Let's get a motion on the table and second first, and then we'll discuss it. Mr. Burgess.
Mr. Chair.
Okay.
The same item was before the Service Committee and rejected twice. So it should go back to the Service Committee before it can come to the board.
Mr. Chairman, I can speak to that process.
Twice at the Service Committee.
All right. Look. Okay. Let's do this now. We want to resolve this as peacefully as we can. All right. I know it's gone before the Service Committee a couple of times. Something happened, but what we want to do now.
I can describe what happened if you would like for me to report on that process in the committee.
That's okay. Let's go ahead and do this. Go ahead and make your motion, and then we'll discuss it after we get it properly moved and second. And then we'll go into
Mr. Chairman,
discussion.
I think a motion has been made by Ms. Mood and seconded by Mr. Anderson.
Okay, well, properly moved and second. Now we're open for discussion. So I think I heard Mr. Fergus. Mr. Fergus, go ahead, Mr. Fergus.
My question is now, are we abolishing the Service Committee? Because if something can skip the Service Committee because it doesn't have a quorum and the board, it's no use for a Service Committee. Are we abolishing it?
Mr. Chair, this is Mr. Anderson. May I speak?
Mr. Anderson.
In response to Mr. Fergus, the service committee met last Friday. We had 3 members in attendance, and this passed unanimously. Were there 4? Or 3 or 4, Lil?
I don't have,
in attendance.
Yes.
we had a quorum, and a majority of the quorum passed the, yes, it was unanimous, the 3 that were present.
Okay.
I question that, Mr. Chair.
And Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Yes, Ms. Lil.
I think I can clear this up for the rest of the board members, because it does sound complex. But originally, when this packet of changes that were proposed to go out for public hearing came before us, there was a concern expressed in the service committee by Mr. Fergus that he wanted to be sure that the full board was aware that we were working on these changes, and that the board wanted us to do that. And so that came before the full board, and the full board said yes. They sent this back to the service committee for us to continue to work on those to make a recommendation to the full board. So we did that. The only exception was that the board went ahead and approved the service changes involving the additional service to implement the university contract would go out for public hearing right away, that wouldn't have to go back to the service committee. So then the service committee took that packet back, and then that was the second meeting that we had to consider it. And at that point in time, Mr. Huggins raised a reservation that he didn't want us to proceed with anything that might be in conflict with the attorney's investigation. So what we did was we withheld any action on that, raised the question with our legal counsel of whether that we would be acting in any conflict, and received their opinion that this was in no conflict with the existing any ongoing investigation. And so then we had a third meeting of the service committee, and that's the one that Mr. Fergus referenced, where we did not have a quorum, so we took no action. And then we had the fourth meeting that Mr. Anderson cited, where the service package was approved for recommendation to the board that go out for public hearing. Now, I want the board to understand that these proposed changes, we are at the point of getting public input through the public hearing. That's what we're asking the board to do. But they are a combination of actions, and the staff did a wonderful job of clustering those for us so we could see like actions and letting us know what the implications for each one would be on service hours and cost savings. And so there are some that actually represent an increase in service. There are some that actually just take the routes that were in a pilot stage, and because the pilot got disrupted by the COVID pandemic, that we would extend the pilot project until the end of June 2021, and then the remainder are service adjustments in routes to try to decrease segments of the routes that may be unproductive, not meeting the service standards. So that's the combination of those actions are in this packet. And as we said in the motion, that what we're doing is recommending to the board that they approve having these proposed changes go out for public hearing.
Mr. Chair, I'm saying
yes,
it wasn't a quorum at the service meeting, at the last service meeting, so it can't be on the board's agenda. So if they say they had a quorum, that quorum was Leah Mood and Ron Anderson. That's always at the service committee. So I'm going to challenge that. If
and
I have to go
Gleason.
legal to challenge it, I don't mind doing it.
Excuse me. All right, Mrs. Mood, you're the chair of that committee. Let me ask you, did you have a quorum on last Friday?
Yes, we did. It was Mr. Anderson and myself and Ms. Gleaton, And the two members that were absent were Mr. Huggins and Mr. Fergus.
And so you agreed to this this recommendation here. So we've had go ahead.
And the members present voted to approve.
Okay, the members now now you've made a motion that we go ahead and approve this. Motion is on. It's been properly moved and second. Any other discussion on this, other than people and any other board members want to comment on this? If not, we will go ahead and I'm going to do a roll call, and we're going to check on voting to pass this recommendation as this my motion is presented by the Service Committee. And
Mr. Chair,
first,
I do have one quick point of clarification. Just this is just a vote to go out to public hearing, and then we'll have to vote on it again, right? Based on the results. Okay. Just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Fergus.
No.
Dr. Morris.
Abstain.
Okay. Mr. Ratio.
Yes.
Ms. Gleason. Ms. Gleason. Ms. Gleason not here? Okay. Representative Howard.
Yes.
Okay. Roger Leaks. Yes. Ms. Dickerson. Not here. Ms. Mood.
Yes.
And Mr. Huggins not here. So of those present, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The motion passes. So we'll go ahead and get that, Madam Clerk, and we will go ahead and approve that for going out for public service. Item number 6. Discussion.
Item number 6.
Item number 6 alpha, which is approve executive director's incentive goals, and that'll be led by Dr. Morris. It can be found on page 199 through page 201. Dr. Morris, front and center.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let me first congratulate the committee for working so diligently to come up with this proposed incentive, these proposed incentive goals. It was not easy. We got input from Mr. Andor, and we have 5 areas that we are taking a look at in terms of incentive goals. Organization effectiveness and regional leadership was the first one. The second one, marketing and public awareness. The third, service development. The fourth, operational oversight. And the fifth, financial management. We develop goals for each one of these areas. And I'm not going to read the goals because you have them before you in that second column. But I will talk about some of the objectives in the third column. And I think the board should be aware that the committee is proposing to the board that, number 1, complete the action of the strategic plan of 2015 and the vision of 2020 as allowable by the board of directors and within financial constraints of the comment. The second objective, work with the board to start the process to develop a new strategic plan through 2025 and a new vision through 2030. The third objective, develop a framework for funding the comment after the end of the penny in Richland County and a framework for funding Lexington County as allowable under the RTA law. And then you can continue with the objectives. We also did ratings. The ratings is in the fourth column. And this committee, after getting input from the board, will rate Mr. Andor and determine his incentive pay for next year or for the end of this year. The maximum incentive payout is 10% of the base salary. All 5 goals are achieved. The maximum incentive payout per goal is 2%. And this process will start on October the 1st and end at the end of the fiscal year. That is our report.
Very good report. Okay.
Yeah.
So, what you recommending? Anything? Any motion or anything, Mr. Dr. Morris?
Yes. I'm recommending that the board approve this incentive plan for our executive director for the 2020 and 2021 fiscal year, starting October the 1st.
And I second that motion.
Properly moved and second. Who's that second, man?
Mood.
Okay, Ms. Mood. Thank you. Okay, it's properly moved and second on these incentive goals here. Now, we need the discussion. Anyone, any discussion on this? We're open for discussion now. Anyone wants to comment on this plan? If not, we'll go ahead and take a vote. I'll do a roll call again. All right, Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Fergus.
Yes.
Dr. Morris.
Yes.
Mr. Horatio.
Yes.
Ms. Gleason. Ms. Gleason. Representative Howard. Roger Leach. Yes. Ms. Dickerson. Ms. Mood.
Yes.
Ms. Mood.
Yes.
And Mr. Huggins. So we have a 1, 2, 3, 4. We have a majority of that. So the motion passes. All right. Looking good. Next item on the agenda, Secretary, this be 6 Bravo, 6B. Secretary duties, be led by Pam Baker. Oh, Pam is not here. Be led by Ms. Franny Heiser, and it can be found on pages 202 through pages 206 of your package.
Mr. Chair, as the memo that's begins on page 202 explains a motion was made in the August board meeting regarding the duties of the secretary and the procedures that the secretary would follow to discharge those duties. The executive committee discussed that motion at the executive committee meeting, and a recommendation has been made that the administrative procedure relating to the secretary change to have the board secretary sign off on any changes to bylaws and board governance policies in the future should amendments be made by the board of directors. Specifically, you could, I think there was a request that the secretary initial each page where there is a change, and so that could also be part of the recommendation.
Okay.
So moved.
Okay. All right.
Second.
Proper moved and second. Discussion.
So just to be clear, I think the motion would be that the Board of Directors approves a change in the administrative procedures to have the secretary sign off by initialing any changes to the bylaws and board governance procedures in the future, should amendments be made by the Board of Directors.
Let me just ask you a question. I thought, was date a part of that also, of that motion?
Yes. It was initial and date. Date of the initial.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that could be added by initially and dating any change to the bylaws or board governance policies.
Right. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So moved.
All right. Properly moved in second. Properly moved in second. Any further discussion? If not, I'm going to do a roll call. Anderson.
No.
Okay. Smith.
Yes.
Burgess.
Yes.
Dr. Morris.
Yes.
Mr. Ratio.
No.
Oh, that went too fast. Ms. Gleason. Representative Howard.
Yes.
Leaks. Yes. Dickerson. Mood.
Yes.
Huggins. Absent. So 1, 2, 3. Yep. The motion passes. So we'll do that. You have that, Madam Clerk?
Yes.
We'll go from there. Okay. Thank you. All right. The next item on the agenda is recommendation from the Executive Committee for the contractual relationship regarding the contractual relationship with RAPDAV Development. Can be found on page 207. And Attorney Heiser, will you take the lead on that, please?
Yes, sir. The executive committee actually met in executive session to discuss issues related to the contractual relationship between the Comet and its contract operator, RAPDAV. The recommendation of the executive committee was that the board authorize a meeting to be held by the Comet's legal counsel with RAPDAV's attorney, the executive director and CEO of the Comet, and the general manager of RAPDAV to discuss the contractual relationship between the Comet and RAPDAV and to determine what is needed to right-size this contractual relationship.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Okay, properly moved and second that we restate that motion again.
I'm reading from a memo that is on page 207. So the board authorized counsel for the Comet, legal counsel for the Comet, to schedule a meeting led by Comet's legal counsel with RAPDAV's attorney, the executive director of the Comet, and the general manager of RAPDAV to discuss the contractual relationship between the Comet and RAPDAV and to determine what is needed to right-size this contractual relationship.
Okay. Properly moved and second. Any discussion? Questions or comments? If none, we'll go ahead and do a roll call. Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Fridges.
Yes.
Dr. Morris.
Yes.
Ms. Teresa,
Yes.
Ms. Gleason, Representative Howard,
Yes.
Roger Leaks, yes. Ms. Dickerson, Ms. Mood,
Yes.
and Mr. Huggins. The motion passes. So we'll go ahead and take the appropriate action for that. Can I get a motion for adjournment?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I noticed that our agenda today didn't leave space for motions, but I did have a motion that I would like to put before the board. Of course, it wouldn't, we wouldn't take action on anything until it was vetted, but may I make that motion now?
I think we left that off purposely. Can that wait until the next meeting, to our regular board meeting, since this was a special meeting?
Yes, it can.
Okay. We appreciate if you do that. Thank you very much. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved.
Okay. Properly moved and second. All in favor? Let it be known by saying aye.
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 Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.